show you a guideline for 2 examples of how the city in one-point perspective may look. These buildings are all the same height, and they follow they come up to the same line, meeting the vanishing point, as does this one. Over here, this is an example of showing you how you can draw different heights of buildings, and that will be a good way to get some variety into your drawing. I'm going to demonstrate also how to get height on a sidewalk, and then a method for getting these center lines on the road, and then also for creating alleyways, turns, and stuff like that in your street to get a little bit more variety instead of just a very standard street with no interesting qualities and stuff. You'll also see how to create little thresholds for doors and perhaps businesses and things like that, and we'll talk about incorporating some details like perhaps a bench or trees and things like that. So as with any city perspective drawing, you're going to start with your horizon line, which is going to be your horizontal line, and this can be higher or lower depending on if you want maybe a little bit more close-up sky view or further away and more straight. I'm going to make mine a little higher than halfway, and that's just going to be a straight line across. And then you're going to have your vanishing point pretty much in the center, but it doesn't actually have to be. I'm going to try to off-center things, so I'm going to have my vanishing point slightly off to the side just a little bit, and that's going to give me a little bit more of a view of the buildings on the side. Your next step is to create a guideline for the tops and bottoms of the buildings. So I'm going to go up on this side, and I'm going to continue that down all the way across. So just 2 more lines, and you've got a guideline for the tops and bottoms of your street. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to do the same. So essentially, I've drawn one horizontal line, an X, and then a big X across. So this is the guideline for tops of buildings above the horizon line, and then for bottoms down here. You can go ahead and do the straight line. I'm going to give myself a vertical to guide, and then you're going to go just slightly off to the sides. You want these to be quite narrow. It's a little awkward in drawings whenever they look too exact. Now that straight line is going to get smaller as it goes back, so I'm guessing on this. I want the spaces between those marks also to get smaller towards the vanishing point, so I'm drawing them larger as they come towards me, the spaces between and the dashes. So this is a very loose way. There is a method, if it was more, that you could connect and kind of measure this out, but that's a little bit more technical than we need to be. So I've got some guidelines, and then you would erase in the middle to get those spaces going. A little tricky part of the sides, drawing the buildings, is just making the decisions on what you want to see, where you want to put things, because you are constructing this space. So you can decide if you want spaces in between, or if you want them to continue in creating alleys. Alleys are actually not very common in cities. It's more of a theatrical thing, but you can decide. I'm going to make one triangle out of this, and let's just say this whole thing is one building, okay? And then I'm going to put a space. I want to put a street going to the left here. So I'm going to leave space for that street. I'm going to start the corner of my next building, and then the next line that I'm going to draw is deciding how wide I want that building to be. I can alter the height of the building by just making this line go up. And now this building is taller than that one. I would just need to take this point back to the vanishing point to draw my height. And then if I erase here, that shows me this building is taller. Now I need to draw the sides of this building because it doesn't go straight up like this or down on the bottom. If you put a horizontal there, then it shows you the side of that building. So it's just a rectangle next to a triangle. If you look at this alone, that's all this is. It's a rectangle next to a triangle. So this indicates the front of the building and this indicates the side. You can erase in there. I'm going to kind of show you how these buildings come together as I build them a little bit. And this is the front of another building, and I'm going to leave that one connected. I'll come back in one longer video and do all the details and stuff. Now I'm going to decide over here, I kind of would like maybe the same thing where this is a cross street where you can go across. So I'm going to come over here and connect this horizontal over here, and that would show me that these are going to line up, and then I can draw my line vertical. Now you can see that on this side the buildings are taller. That's fine. And the street still matches up. So in this, I would want to use this as a reference point for the opposite side. You don't have to have all these alleys and things like that and streets if you don't want to. You can just have buildings, but it's up to you to decide. So then the rest of this is a building. I'm going to show you how to put a doorway. Let's put a doorway here. So we need to decide on the top the height of that door. And that's going to be a diagonal line that connects to the vanishing point. So of course I put my pencil on the vanishing point first, made the ruler touch, and pivoted to where I wanted the height to be. The sides of the frame of the doorway are just going to be vertical lines, so they need to be parallel to all the other vertical lines. So hold your ruler and kind of guide yourself. You don't have to actually measure. You can visually guess. So I have could be a door, but this door looks completely flush with the wall. What I'm going to show you how to do is make it go inward so that there is a threshold for that door, right? So that's how I'm going to draw it. And if you notice, it's just a horizontal line here and then another line to the vanishing point and then a vertical. So 3 more lines and I've got this kind of door wedged out. I can also show you how to draw the arched doorway that you saw. So I'm going to come to this point, make my ruler touch, and draw a horizontal line. I'm going to leave my pencil right where it is, pivot my ruler to the vanishing point because I'm going to draw the line towards me now. And then back to that original point, I'm going to pivot my ruler to create one more vertical, and it's going to stop at the top of that doorway. So now I have a little threshold here. I could, add some shading, a door handle, and erase right here. And I have the effect of being able to walk in. On this side, I'm going to show you a doorway. It starts out the same way, but I'm going to show you a door that would be arched. So it's going to start out the same way with the verticals, however high you want it to be. And you can give yourself a guideline for the height. So pencil on the vanishing point, give yourself a guide for the height, and then another vertical over here. And then you can find a center of something by adding a cross section, connecting the corners. And then another straight line up will show you where the center is. So there is actually the center of that door. So this would be my highest point. So I'm just going to draw a curved line here. Finding that center point will help you make it look exact. What you would not want to do is this, because then it gives you confusing perspective. So that's what not to do. So this is, you would want to find that center. And if you wanted to be further technical, you could use the vanishing point diagonal to indicate where it meets. I did a pretty good job guessing. Then you could draw inward the same way that you did the other way. Go in with a horizontal, draw that threshold line, and then your vertical isn't completely vertical now. It needs to curve at some point to indicate the curve of that archway. So then you could erase those details, and it's the same thing. You've got another doorway that's a slightly different shape. Now, windows are the same way that we did with the house. You're going to draw those the same exact way. It's still going to be a trapezoid with that rectangle in the center. So I'm going to show you in this city how that is exactly the same. This was drawn above and below the horizon line, so I can see the inside of the top and the bottom. Here's a little example of a corner window that could be a nice detail for you, with a little character singing up at the top. So I'm going to put a window up here, so indicate the top and bottom of the window. There's going to be the top, and there's the bottom. Connect with two verticals, so however wide you want your window to be. I'm going to let this one carry off of the page like that. Now I can't see this shape here, so let's say this is our window and it's above our horizon line. So I'm not going to be able to see that bottom rectangle. I can only see here and here. So this is the point which your horizontal comes out and then down. And then connect to the vanishing point there to show the top of that frame. So now you have that thickness in that window. Other details you're going to see come together in the time lapse. Let's do a little sidewalk, which my road line came straight down as if I was drawing it straight from the center. I actually should have tilted that over a little bit. I'll fix that in the in my time lapse. I'm going to give myself a little street sidewalk. So starting with a line out from the vanishing point and then another one just right next to it, to give a little bit of thickness there. And if I add some horizontals in here, and there would be a street corner, I'm going to add a street corner. So it'd be kind of like having tiles on a sidewalk. I'm going to let those get a little bit closer. I'm going to stop it there. So you can see it takes a little bit of knowing what you're going to do before you do it. So you're making decisions often as you're drawing in perspective. Once you have those horizontals, you can draw just a tiny little vertical line down in this very, very, very slender triangle that I have. And it gives the illusion of having a little bit of a sidewalk there with there's a thickness. And then I would erase in the middle. And I would actually need two lines here, and they're really subtle. That shows the thickness there. You could do the same thing on this side. You could draw stoplight, benches, all kinds of things. I want you to experiment with altering the heights of buildings. You can be creative and change the profiles of buildings. So you can maybe give a building a pitched roof and then connect it like this. So I want you to be creative with what problem solving ideas you have whenever you're creating your perspective city.